evening, everyone. Highlights of the news: traffic accidents. A Beaver County man is being held for murder. Is more later.
What's going on, y'all? You're tuning in to the highest rated, most listened to podcast to ever grace the airwaves, and you're a better person for listening to us. All right, maybe not, but you're really going to enjoy it anyways. This is Made to Motivate podcast, and we'll be talking social media hot topics, pop culture news, the greatest in movies and music, and all things sports. Make sure you're following us on social media at Made to Motivate podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can watch the show on our YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and with that being said, let's get this show started now. Are you done? Are you done with the beer thing? Like, have you called it quits officially on that?
I can't drink it when I have a mask on.
Oh my God. Here's the excuses.
I'll be back next week. I promise.
I will not
Promise? You're not here next week?
I'm on vacation.
Oh, I thought it was the week after next week. Ah, bummer. So next week we got to figure out what we want to do. Maybe Dan will earn his jersey.
Maybe.
Seriously, I'm about to take that shit back to China.
I gave it to him yesterday and he said, I guess this means I have to be on the show more. So,
Oh, don't make us twist your arm, Dan.
right. So
You fuck.
anyhow, Made to Motivate podcast. Welcome back, y'all. This is season 4, episode 21. 21?
21.
Okay, I thought you went like this.
I thought he went like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a beer.
It's a slow reaction, man.
Episode 21. This is your host, Ryan Weiss. I'm joined as always by Jesse Young from Sports Illustrated.
What's going on?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Just okay.
Just okay.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
We've got Chris, the Film Freak Kessinger.
Doing a little camera share this week, roommates.
Hey, buddy. I don't normally have a guest on my seat. I feel
Well,
Chris,
nice.
put your dick away.
Yeah, don't pull a LeBron on me.
compared to the guests that are over here, I'm severely lacking.
Oh my goodness, this guy. And we've got a very special guest with us, Mason Morrison.
Yep.
Mason is joining us today for our 21st episode, 22nd.
21st
I'm confused now which one we're on. Chris threw me off with his finger jockey over there. What's new and exciting, guys? Jesse, you're just okay today. What's going on?
Yeah. So we had a funeral today for my grandma. Passed away a couple of days ago.
It's supposed to be like
Damn.
This would be like a nice thinking of her.
Oh,
Thinking of you.
okay. Okay. I'll take it. No, so we saw the whole family and everything, and that was okay. It was just, you know, it sucks.
This was your mom or dad's dad? Mom?
Dad's mom.
Dad's
Yeah.
mom.
And then I don't even know what the fuck I've been doing since then.
Yeah.
Working a little bit and just like everybody's just like stressed. My mom's not doing great right now either. So, and then we did the memorial for Steph's grandma who couldn't have a funeral because of COVID. So we just did that. So it was literally like grandma dies,
Back to back.
doing the memorial, doing the funeral. And then tomorrow we have like a big baby appointment. So I'll be busy with that. And then Saturday I'm out the door. Like
Where you
vacation can't come quick enough. We're going to Sandbridge, Virginia, which is like 25 minutes south of Virginia Beach.
Mm.
Same like gist, close enough that you can go do all that other stuff, but it's like more isolated and quiet. There's like a little like
thirsty
national preserve next to it, which is really dope.
I've always liked Virginia. I hate driving through West Virginia.
Oh my God, it's the worst.
Yeah.
West Virginia, going south anywhere that takes you through West Virginia is the worst because it's beautiful, but it's just the most winding turns with Mack trucks everywhere. Pennsylvania sucks too.
Yeah, Pennsylvania's really bad.
But
the things that always sketch me out the most about going through those is the runaway semi ramps.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so sketchy.
And you got to use
seen
those
one
to
hit
stop.
Yeah, what's that?
have you ever seen one of those hit? Like
No.
one of those and have to go up
Thank
it?
goodness, no.
Yeah.
That was crazy to see.
Have you seen those?
Yeah, we were going. Me and my girlfriend went to North Carolina just a few weeks ago, and we actually saw a semi take one of them because like his brakes went out, and it was
so
terrifying. Yeah,
And then especially if you drive through either in the evening or I feel like every time I go through there, it storms. It always rains.
Yeah.
And
West
absolutely-
Virginia.
That's true.
Going through West
Yeah.
Virginia or Virginia, it's awful.
When we came back from our honeymoon, we stayed late to get our tattoos, which was like totally last second decision.
Wait, you got honeymoon tattoos?
We got our first destination one. We get like one
Oh.
every like big vacation we go on.
I never knew
So,
that.
Yeah, we'd get one for this vacation if she wasn't pregnant, but
Yeah.
we can't do it. So,
That's cool.
but yeah, so we were supposed to be back like in the evening, but that took like I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours or something like that. Just set us behind, hit a bunch of traffic because of it, didn't get out early. And normally I drive straight through.
Yeah.
Because I hate to drive, but I hate people driving me.
Yep.
And I was like, Steph, I'm going to fall asleep. Like, I need you to take over just for like 30 minutes. Let me take a nap.
Right.
I go to fall asleep, maybe fell asleep for like 20 minutes. Like I was in that like lull where like you never stop hearing the radio type of thing, but you know you're probably knocked out.
Been there.
And I wake up and I turn over and look at her and she's just driving with tears coming down her eyes and stuff. And she's like, it's so dark out here. I feel like I'm going to hit something. We're going to die. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. I'll fucking drive some, like get back on the wheel and make it back. So that sucked. But
Apparently my wife's scared of the dark.
apparently she thought we were going to die. But
That's
so we're going down this time and it's going to take forever because we have to stop like every 2 hours to walk and stuff because
Yeah.
she's pregnant. So
Walking.
I'm just ready to get to the beach, man. I'm
Just
ready.
Fly. Can you fly when you're pregnant?
You can, but it's like you're still supposed to walk and there's less of a
Yeah.
chance that she can and stuff. So
And I think it's only up to like a certain time period, like 8 months or something.
And
There's
then
like
you
a
can't.
cutoff. Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
yeah, so it's just like she already had the blood clot once and she's on the blood thinner, so it'd probably be okay, but we're just not risking anything at this point.
Yeah, not worth it.
Yeah, so I had a friend in high school who actually passed away because of that. She tried to drive all the way down to Texas while she was
Jeez.
pregnant and just went for too long. And they got down in a hotel that night. Her dad was driving her down. And then the next day he woke up and she had thrown a clot.
Jesus.
So that's like one of the things I'm most paranoid about. It's like
Yeah.
every hour we're getting out, we're walking. So,
Goodness.
but yeah, so vacation cannot come quick enough.
What does that mean for summer school? Does somebody fill in for you?
I have like super flexible scheduling. So
Yeah.
they've already said, like, if you have a timesheet, vacation, whatever you want to do, like you just have to make sure that either somebody's going to be there or you guys notify the kids. So I've got people who are just going to fill
take
in
the
for
week
me,
off or
but
something.
it's just, there's no like call off or anything. I just don't show up.
Gotcha. That's cool. Christopher, what is new with you, sir? Anything exciting since the
Follow that up, Chris.
The last show?
It's always great when I get to go after Jesse. That's terrific. Well, I do have one thing. I'll get to that in a little bit. But first of all, obviously, golf, movies all weekend. That seems to be my life anymore. But this guy over here won an awesome game on Friday that I was happy to ref. Came
Which
back.
Ryan sucks, Jesse.
You suck.
Yeah.
You knew it was you. I don't know that guy. I'm not going to down talk him.
This guy was down 6 going into the second game.
Man.
And he came back little bit by little bit. It took a couple holes to get there, but he finally did. Took the lead. Then he blew the lead. The other Ryan took it back.
Yeah.
And then they were going into the 36th hole. And were you up one or it was tied?
tied
It was
in the-
tied.
we were
Yeah,
tied
it
in the
was
last.
tied at that point. And then
Jeez.
The other-
Question. That last hole that he won, what is the slit thing at the end? I cannot remember what that is.
the pipe.
The thing they were both aiming for
Yeah,
first.
it's a hole in 0 if you make it on the first shot, but like it's so rare. I've never seen it done.
Is it just like a dead center type of thing?
yeah, but it's uphill. It's dead center.
You go into
A little clubhouse.
basically a hole the size of the ball.
Right.
So you have to get it directly in there.
I've gotten it in the middle, but it never hit the hole. It
Yeah.
bounced out anyways.
Mine actually hit it.
Yeah.
Like almost went in.
Yeah,
And
it was
then
like the top of it.
I just couldn't remember. I was watching the video. I'm like, what the fuck was that? I don't
Yeah.
remember.
And you
Okay.
only get one shot at it too. So once you go for it and you're screwed and you're on top of that hill. So
Yeah.
now you have no good shot at the other hole.
Right.
So yeah, we were doing that all weekend. And Sunday, your boy had a date, his first one in 11 years.
You boy, you
Oh,
boy.
bachelor.
Wait, you?
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, we didn't know until now.
Why didn't we
No,
know?
what the
fuck?
No,
Well, who is it?
I don't talk about things. I'm definitely not talking about that.
Oh my god!
I don't talk about that until like the actual date's over, and the date went really well. So I was like,
The date's over.
wow.
Send us a picture, man. Fuck.
But we had a fun time. We went to a Charlie's, had some dinner.
This
And
fucking
Send us a
Guy.
picture and no name. Then we can't find it.
That's right.
Ryan might know her. You wouldn't know her. Ryan might know her. I'll say that.
Well, either
Ryan knows
way,
everybody.
That's awesome. I can't believe we did not know this. I feel
Yeah.
so betrayed.
Went well. And then this Sunday, actually, we're going to float the river.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
This fucking guy.
Pretty serious. Oh, Charlie's then straight to float the river.
well, Parasons was closed.
Taking her to Parasons already?
Wait, when are you going to float the river? This Sunday?
Sunday
after
at
golf?
3:00.
Okay,
yeah.
after
Yeah. No. I already made sure it. Trust me. I'm the
Yeah.
master at my own schedule.
Your boy's talking Parasons. So you get in the ring next Friday then? And then
Oh,
No.
goodness. Well, that's cool.
Yep.
Good stuff.
does she know about this show?
She's
Oh.
probably going to listen to it. So,
All right.
yep.
Hey,
You can reach out to us on the Made to Motivate
Hi,
page to
friend.
let us know who you are.
you need to go and like the page and then follow all of us so that we can compare.
Post
And then we'll
3
know.
peace signs if you went on a date with Chris.
Share it and tag all of us.
Yeah,
in the
Yes.
exactly. Okay, well that's cool.
Yep.
Anything else? I mean,
No,
that's
that's
pretty
it.
much it.
Jesse always has the better weekends. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I went on a date. I had a funeral.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the better weekend? The first date in 11 years or another person passing away?
Yeah.
But it's that emotional captivity that he gives me. So now we go from a dead friend and it's like, so Chris, how was your weekend?
As Jesse was mourning all weekend, and
Yeah.
you're out there just sending dick pics. Or
Just
something.
Charlieing it up. Oh, Charlie's.
Jeez.
Hey, baby, you want some of these really good chicken strips?
Really good Cajun pasta.
They do have good Cajun pastas.
I love that place. Mason, did you do anything fun and exciting this weekend?
Not really.
No?
Just worked a lot. That's pretty much all I
This
do
dude
until I
works
start
a
school.
lot.
Yeah, I get that. I totally understand. I did not much either. I we went mini golf Friday night.
Yeah. And then we went mini golf twice.
Oh, we did mini golf twice.
And then we hit up the bees of Apple.
yeah, that was a good Friday.
Apple
Yeah.
just put out a really good commercial. There was people walking in. They were like, "Welcome back, America. We missed you." And I was like, "Yeah, let's fucking
Oh
go."
my goodness.
She did the Jurassic Park theme.
I love it. Yeah, mini golf. We went to the Akron Zoo on Sunday and saw the new tiger exhibit or whatever.
How is it?
It's dope.
I heard it was
It's
awesome.
really dope.
I gotta go.
The tigers, there's two. They're like in two separate sections or whatever. It was right next to the window, and then we went to the new lion exhibit, which we've been to already, but there's like a new section that they must have opened up that was blocked off last time, and this lion was literally just laying completely sideways against the glass. Things are huge, man.
Balls on the glass.
Its balls were definitely out. Just free flying. But yeah, so we
Big
saw
balls,
that
big lion balls.
big lion
Big
balls
lion
to go with
balls.
the big lion feet. So yeah, we went to that new exhibit. It's really cool. They did a really good job. They had to have spent a shit ton of money.
I always wonder about that. So is that just based off their profits in terms of what they spend?
They get grantors who give them money so that they can expand.
Mm-hmm.
And this exhibit, so my sister-in-law used to volunteer there, and she was saying that the money that they got for this, it's going to be one of the only zoos set up to allow breeding of the tigers. So they're like
Tiger cubs.
Yeah.
Yep. Tiger balls.
it's really, really dope. They did a really good job. So definitely go there if you haven't been. I know you said you haven't been, Chris. You should definitely go and check it out.
Last time I went was like 12 years ago.
Oh yeah, we got to go. We have
I
a
went
pass,
a year or two
so
ago.
It's fun. That's all for weekly follow-up. We're gonna do Made to Motivate.
Okay.
Cool.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
So I wanted to have Mason on as a guest on the show.
'Cause I'm awesome. That's why.
Absolutely. Not just for Pride Month, but also just the fact that his story is one that's full of inspiration and courage. This is a kid that I've known since he was, practically a kid yourself. Yeah, you were like a young teenager. And every amount of courage and bravery that it's taken in his life, I admire. I wish that I was half the man that you are, and I truly mean that.
I think you are.
And I can't. Nah, but I mean, you've made
Just a little over half.
You've made tremendous character strides. You've made tremendous, personal strides for yourself, reaching out and literally taking your own happiness by the horns. And I admire that. And I feel like our listeners are going to get a lot from your story here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I know a little bit about, I was hoping to find out more obviously through the show. So I do appreciate you coming on, and the little bit I do know how courageous this is to do, and just your story in general. So really happy to have you on, and I think this will be a very meaningful segment to anybody that it takes the time to listen to and or watch. So
Well, I'm glad I could be here. This has been a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll be able to come back and do it some more.
absolutely, we always enjoy guests. That's our favorite types of shows. So kind of gets us out of our normal bullshit where we just kind of ramble on forever. So
Right.
it forces us to actually have some good conversations.
I'm glad we didn't do that tonight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no
Still
rambling
happens.
here.
We still just find some meaning at some point or another. So You want to kick us off, Chris?
Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to get the introduction as far as who you are.
Yeah.
You know, how you sought out this change in your life,
Mhm.
basically. So just let our audience know.
Okay, so basically, you know, I grew up as a kid in a small town, you know, in Ohio, Atwater. It's small, like it's smaller than you could possibly imagine. And living out there, it was very, you know, conservative, and I was taught certain ways, and I went to church, and you know, some in high school, you know, I always knew I was different. I just never knew why. I never wanted to do my makeup or do hair, or play with my mom would get me dolls and I would chuck them under my bed and wouldn't even look at them. I'd play video games all the time. So I just always, you know, I was always told, oh, you're a tomboy. That's just what you are. And, you know, so getting into high school, I started working, you know, at McDonald's, and I met a lot of friends there, and, you know, a lot of them were LGBTQ, or, you know, just had grown up in Talmadge or Kent, or grew up around things that I didn't. So,
And was that your first dose of that?
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, there was those kids in school that, you know, were gay or emo, or we just against the, you know,
The norm
culture.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
But you were always taught like those kids are weird. So, you know, so, you know, that was really my first dose of that. And, I had always knew I had, you know, feelings inside of things that were, you know, I looked at women differently than I should have, you know, or taught I was should have. So it just growing up, I really was able to discover myself more. And especially once I got into college and things like that. And I had never really heard of the term transgender, and especially until college, just because, you know, those weren't views that were accepted, and, you know, where I grew up. And it was just it all clicked, it all made sense. And I had known that for my whole life. I knew that I was different, and I knew I didn't feel comfortable in who I was, but I never knew why. And so I started working at Buffalo Wild Wings in Kent, and my manager, I was working as a server, and Kent is very diverse, you know, especially for the people that are listening that don't know. Kent is probably one of the most liberal cities you can
Very
go
progressive.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, there was a lot of people there that were awesome, just, you know, very accepting, very loving. And I was a server, and I started to transition into the kitchen. I was, you know, becoming a manager. I needed to know, you know, just everything. And one of my training managers in the kitchen, his name was Adam, and he was transgender. And I don't know what it was, but there was just this overwhelming sensation of, wow, you know, holy shit, that's who I am.
Yeah.
That's what I am.
So you
Kinda
felt like
realization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And just listening to his story was just it something in my brain was just like, this is it. Like, wow, holy shit. And so you know, from there it was just it became difficult, you know, to not only come out to my family and my friends, but just learning about it, learning who I was, learning how to deal with those feelings. And people who didn't really accept me at first, it was difficult. So, you know, things have gotten a lot better since then. But
So take us through some of the physical obstacles as far as the surgeries itself goes.
so with a lot of trans men, you start testosterone, and it's hard because a lot of doctors aren't informed. You know, transgender is a very new. LGBTQ's been around forever. Transgender is not. And even if it has been, it's not something that's very universally known. At least it wasn't. It's a lot more now, especially with Bruce Jenner transitioning into Caitlyn, and you know, her story and everything. It's that was really the tipping point of people understanding that, you know, people like me exist. And
It's nice to see that too, you know, and on a bigger scale that, you know, everybody identifies with this.
oh, absolutely. But what people don't realize is when it is on a bigger scale, a lot of kids, especially that are, you know, closeted, haven't necessarily come out, don't understand who they are, you know, a lot like I was. That's terrifying because the response to Caitlyn was not good, you know, and by any means. And she's very brave for doing what she did 100%. And just, you know, grabbing life and saying, I'm sick of living this lie of who I'm not. But, you know, it was hard at first. So I came out to my girlfriend at the time, and they were not okay with it,
Really?
which was, you know, and that's another obstacle too, is a lot of LGBTQ, they're okay with the lesbian, they're okay with the bi, they're okay with the, you know, the gay, but they don't accept the trans. And you would think in a community that's all about acceptance, that wouldn't be the case.
I didn't know
but,
that.
It's the Dave Chappelle joke.
yeah. But it's just you know, it gets to a point where over time it's learned and adapted. But yeah, at first it was you know, I came out and they were like, well, I don't date men, I'm not into men. And I was just like, okay, you know, like, and then their family at first was very, very reluctant, said a lot of hurtful things. And
I'm sorry about that.
it's okay, you know, over time you learn not everybody's great, you know what I mean? And so I ended up moving back home. My mom from the get-go was very, very loving and accepting, you know.
Your mom is a gem of a woman. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom, she's great. And she, from the jump, was okay with it. You know, it took her a while to get used to, but that's with everything, you know, going from who I was to Mason.
It is an adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just, at first it was very hard, but then it got easier. So
Why do you think that is, going back to the, you know, you said that the gay and lesbian community doesn't necessarily always accept. Do you think that that's like you said, I don't date men. Do they think that it's like a betrayal to, they think you're a lesbian and you're like turning your back on that? Or like, why is that?
I don't think it's so much that. I think it's almost going back to our conversation earlier about religion. You know, it's the unknown, the misunderstood. And I think that, you know, that happens with everyone, whether you're gay, straight, bi, trans. You know, there's a lot of things that even I, you know, struggle with to understand, like, or at least did, you know, like the agender, the intersexual, like the things like that. You know, it's just it's all new to everyone. It's not just, you know, to one community. So
So you said around what time? Middle school is when you started to kind of realize it's something you felt different or had different types of like internalized.
See, I knew when I was little, probably, you know, like kindergarten, that I wanted to be a boy. And I just was always told, you know, that's just because you're a tomboy, which a lot of the times, you know, that is the case. They don't want to transition. They don't like being girly. But in my case, it was different. So yeah, you could say more towards the understanding of what that meant was more towards high school for me, but definitely since I was young, I knew.
Yeah. So like in the community you grew up in, as far as the town, Atwater's what you said. So the community itself was very is it conservative when you don't believe? Sorry, I don't know those.
Conservative.
Conservative. Yeah.
So
traditional values is conservative.
Yeah. So you didn't have a lot of exposure to that type of community and stuff, but you knew something inside of you. You knew you felt different, or you had these different thoughts and stuff. So obviously I'm sure that had to have been very scary or confusing. You don't understand what you're going through. When was it that, like, with social media and online, obviously your age difference is far greater than ours. So I'm sure what you were connected to is much different. But like, when was it really not until like college that you knew that this community existed, or like that you started to realize or understand what was going on within yourself and everything?
So I would say, even with me being younger with social media and everything, I wasn't allowed to have social media until I was 13 or 14. You know, I made my first Facebook and things.
Yeah.
So like, I would say, probably later high school, early college was when I realized, you know, that I knew LGBTQ and, you know, things like that, but I didn't understand the bandwidth of people that were around that understood and related to me and accepted me. So
if the people that you're surrounded by don't believe in it or discuss it, you're not going to know to look for that, or you're not going to understand what it is. So you're not going to know where to find that outlet or understand like what is going on. And I've always wondered that, because that's within the church, correct me if I'm wrong, but within the church, I was always thought that they say you're born gay, or maybe you're not born gay, you choose it or something like that. I
choose
believe
it, yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
so I know there was like the stigma behind it, and I believe that I don't think anybody chooses that lifestyle. I think you're born that way. It's something within scientific or whatever. And I've always been curious about how or when there's a difference. So one, I appreciate you coming on because I have questions that I've always been curious about. And
Yeah, of
and
course.
you don't just ask, you don't just
Right.
go up to someone and ask. Like I have my girlfriend from high school. We dated for a very long time. She dated men her whole life, and then she came out as a lesbian. And there's that part of me inside that's like, well, when we dated, did you know? Did you know that you were into women? Maybe she didn't know. And I've always like, what sparks that you're like, does it not feel right? Or is it like an emotional thing? I've always been curious, like to her, I want to be like, well, did you date me just because you were afraid to come out? So you wanted to kind of have that normalcy, which I would 100% understand, because I can't imagine trying to go through your life and it hasn't been as accepting until more recently. So, I've always been curious of that, like what, and you've explained it a little bit, you felt different. You identified with boy activities and stuff more. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And going based off of what you said, there's a fine line in between not knowing and being fearful. And I think that I can't speak for everyone, but at least with my experience, it was more, I always knew, but it was more of, it wasn't accepted. How were people going to react? And I think that's a lot of the issues with LGBTQ.
So transitioning back, as far as I was curious about the surgical aspects of it. So what's the first surgery that you address on your way to transitioning to the real you?
So I personally haven't had any surgeries yet. I am in the process of being scheduled. It does take a long time, but so it's up to you. You have to see like a psychiatrist, be diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which is the technical term, and go to a doctor. The doctor gives you the option to start HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, or you can have your surgery first. So
Do you think that that's a good or a bad thing? Because it is like a permanent decision to make that change.
Of course.
I
So
mean,
what do you think about that?
I think,
And also,
First-
what does that entail?
first of all, I think in general, everyone should go to therapy.
Yeah.
I think everybody has their own shit that they need to deal with, but I think it's a good decision. And I'm going to say, not everyone has to agree, but I'm going to say there are a lot of trans people who start the transition and backtrack.
Realize,
Oh, well, I don't want to, this is too hard. This is too much. I don't want to do this. I'd rather just live a normal life.
Right.
And there becomes a certain point where you can't do that. Once you get past a certain point in your transition, there are things that, like, my voice will never go back to how it was 2 years ago, especially with trans women. It's a lot harder in society for trans women to be accepted or to even transition. You have to start hormone blockers.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yeah.
Just for clarification, when you say trans women, that is trans to a woman, right?
Yes.
Man to woman, and then trans man is woman to man.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, female to male is trans men, and then male
Like
to female.
transitioned into man, transitioned.
Okay.
into-
Yes.
Okay.
I always get that mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I'm like,
do.
okay, so which one's struggling more? Okay, I'm on board.
Yeah, so men who transition to women, it's a lot harder for them. But going back to the surgical point, you have an option to either start hormone replacement therapy first or get your top surgery. So the top surgery is the removing of the breast tissue and any of the breast, cellulite. With people who are bigger chested, men who are bigger chested, it's a longer process. You have to have a double
mastectomy.
yeah, and so it requires them to cut underneath the breast and then remove any of the tissue and then take the skin and reattach it. They have to remove the nipple, so it's a long process.
Ooh.
You go 6 months to a year without any feeling in your chest area, which is what all have to do. But men who have smaller breasts, are on the luckier side. They have keyhole surgery, which is they make an incision underneath the nipple, and they stick a tube inside and it sucks all of it out, and then that's it. You get stitched, and that's really all it takes. So it's a lot easier. Now there is another surgery you can have. You can have bottom surgery, and bottom surgery isn't fully developed. It's still being researched. Now there is a surgery you can have where basically what they do is they take skin off the labia and then put I don't know the exact way how they do it, but basically they enlarge the like clitoral area
Yeah.
to make it feel like, you have a penis.
Yeah.
But for as to, giving trans men an actual functioning penis, it's very, very slim to no chance of you having any feeling or really any arousal or anything. So
I was always curious about that because the penis itself is a muscle, obviously,
Right.
and like most muscles, it has to evolve and it has to
Mhm.
grow and strengthen and all that. So to just give somebody a penis right off the
Mhm.
bat, it's almost not going to be fully functional.
Yeah, and another thing is too, and what people don't like, this is something that doctors are having trouble with, is you can't. It's a lot with this, like with a blood transfusion. If you give someone else's blood and put it in yours, your body's going to reject it.
Oh, good point.
So it's the same. If I were to get a donated penis and have it attached to my body's going to reject it. It's
That's
not
true.
going to accept it as my own muscle because it's not my DNA.
Yeah.
So that's where the struggle really is right now with bottom surgery.
Yeah.
Trans men are able to have a hysterectomy. You can get the entire, you can get that whole area removed, which is that's something that women have issues with, is because there's rules for women to have hysterectomies and trans men can have them. So there's just a lot of there's a lot of options for trans men and women, but it is harder for the trans women. So
Interesting. I wanted to talk about, so as far as your life now, you've met a girl, obviously.
Mhm.
What's her name?
Paige.
Okay. And she's been very accepting.
Oh, very, yeah.
Okay. So basically the next step is to raise money for this surgery. Are you doing any kind of platform to raising this money?
Yeah. So Paige actually a couple days ago surprised me and made a GoFundMe. The goal on there is like $5,000. Surgeries of any kind are expensive, but especially for transitioning men, insurances do not pay for cosmetic surgeries. So all of that money comes out of pocket. You can send it to your insurance, but nine times out of 10, they're going to say no.
Yeah.
So
I find it kind of strange how so many of these, procedures and just, what's the word I'm looking for? Just standards for, being accepted in insurance wise here, they're not ready for it. It's kind of unforeseen, even in a progressive culture like we are, like there's not rules that even the playing field. As you said, it's harder for a man in that respect for cosmetic surgery.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that also ties into belief systems and things like that. And like we said, we talk about like separation of church and state and stuff. And like, what are insurance companies accepting of? Like, what are they going to choose to pay for? For example, this kind of off topic, but not what they choose to pay for or not. Ashley had the breast reduction surgery and it was completely paid for because they said it was for her medical benefit to have a breast reduction because she was having neck pain and back pain and things like that. Then she got diagnosed with cancer, and you know what wasn't covered? Being diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't choose to have cancer and you're not going to cover it. I chose to have a breast reduction and we're going to fully pay for it.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make any sense?
And
So
it doesn't. And a lot of things, this is something that trans men and doctors are kind of in cohorts on, is a lot of the times doctors will bill it as a medical requirement because then that is the only way the insurance will pay for it. Yeah.
Is the hormone therapy and stuff taken care of by insurance though?
So yes, because testosterone can be prescribed to men as well. It can be prescribed to anyone. So it's seen as a prescription. Therefore, the insurance will pay for it as a prescription.
that's probably where some of I kind of knocked it right off the rip just because it kind of tied to like, I shouldn't have to have someone else approval to do what I
Mhm.
want with the psychiatrist thing. But I'm sure that probably can play a part in them saying, well, like, for their health and their well-being, this is necessary, and we can prescribe you to do your testosterone and stuff. So that
Mhm.
way you're, getting to the point in your life where you feel safe and comfortable. So I can see how they can finagle and maneuver some of that to be covered, because it can go to either gender. So
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And coming back to that, there are certain types of testosterone that are not covered, and
Yeah.
that is for anyone. But your doctor really has to go back and forth with your insurance as to what they'll cover and what they won't.
What is that like when you start doing like is it shots or pills or?
So there's shots, a pill, and a gel.
Okay.
Now the pills are not really proven to work, but it's an option. The gel works. It takes a lot longer, and you have to do it every day. And
So it's just like a topical, like rub it on
yeah,
your
so it's a topical gel. You rub it
Vicks
on your
vapor rub it
shoulders.
and-
Yep. So you put depending on your dosage, you usually start at 1 pump per shoulder. And then you cannot touch it. You cannot put a shirt on until it's fully dry. You can't take a shower until it's been on for a certain amount of hours. But it does work. It's an option, especially for people who are, scared to take the shot.
Yeah.
The most progressive way to do it is the shot. So basically, they give you the testosterone in a prescription. It comes in a little vial, and then they give you syringes. You obviously put the testosterone in the syringe, and then you have you can do it in your stomach, your thigh, anywhere that has fat. And it's kind of like diabetics who take insulin. It's the
Mhm.
same thing.
So we obviously know that you've always been the same person,
Mhm.
have you noticed anything maybe emotionally as far as like that's changed along the way, or even with your personality?
That's what I
Oh,
was kind of getting at
yeah,
too. 'Cause
100%.
You see in the movies, like the guy accidentally takes the estrogen pill and they're like, my boobs hurt. Like, was there ever like a testosterone
Oh,
moment or
yeah.
anything like
Mhm.
that?
Jesse is of course quoting Kevin Nash from The Longest Yard.
Yeah. So there are side effects, yeah, and your doctor does inform you of all of them, before you even start. You know what they are. There is a time period in between taking your first shot and getting the prescription and everything, so that you have time to think over, make sure that these are okay with you. Anger is a big side effect.
Really?
Men in general, they're a lot angrier than women. Depression, it can cause you to have health issues, high cholesterol, you're at higher risk of a heart attack, just
Wow.
anything that men, like cisgendered men who are born that way, anything that they suffer from, you are at risk of when you start testosterone.
Wow.
So
And
it's
that's obviously all things you have to. I mean, you know the risks, and you have to take into consideration when you're making this decision. It's obviously a life altering decision, but to come out and be the person you really want to be, it's like you weigh them out. This is who I
100%.
am. I'm going to do what's necessary for me to be who I feel that I am or believe that I am. So, and I think that's a risk with a lot of different things. So you find the necessity or benefit in it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's another benefit of having a therapist is you have that access to anti-anxiety, anti-depression, anger management, things like that. So that, going back to Jesse's point of, how do you feel of that being a requirement? It's good for more than one purpose.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you said earlier you had the girlfriend that didn't accept
Mhm.
the decision. Up until that point, did you identify just as a lesbian and you just didn't know,
So
or
even to this day, I'm pansexual. So I don't base who I'm attracted to off gender. I base it off who you are just as a person. Whether you're male, female, transgendered, just whatever.
So to halt that for a second, that's what that means, because I am the biggest idiot when it comes to so like I'm that guy online who doesn't know the difference between bi and pansexual.
It does not mean that you want to have sex with pans. Let me just
personal pan pizzas, man.
cast iron or stainless steel?
Yeah.
To Jesse's point, or I guess to kind of piggyback back off it, because I was wondering the same thing. So you're pansexual, so you're not sexually attracted by gender, but I guess you were dating a woman
Mhm.
at that point. Did you identify as a woman? Like, was she thinking she was a lesbian?
Yes.
You weren't dating her because she was a woman. You were dating her because that's who you were attracted
Right.
to or whatever.
Mhm.
But she was dating you as a lesbian. So when
Yes.
you came out or said, I actually identify as a man, that's when she was like, well, I don't date men.
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
And she did eventually apologize and,
Yeah.
realized that it was kind of an ignorant thing to
Insensitive.
say.
Yeah.
But, that's a lot of part of the reason that the LGBTQ, going back to that, has a hard time not accepting trans people, but rather understanding, because it's, lesbian, you date women, gay, you date men.
Right.
And with transgender, there's an issue there because, oh, well, I don't like the, sexual part of your body,
Right.
but you're a man, so I don't really know,
Yeah.
and that's hard for a lot of people.
That's one of the things I always wondered about too is, so, obviously there's the surgeries, or they're working towards surgeries to kind of allow to get the change in anatomy and things like that. But, so you're dating, you have a girlfriend now? What's her name?
Her Paige.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So I wondered how that works. So as her being a female, now does she, not that it matters, but does she identify as she heterosexual or is she pansexual?
Oh, she's pansexual.
Pansexual too. Okay. So in that case, it kind of answers that question of, well, the sexuality, the parts that you have isn't really relevant because she's not attracted to you by sex.
Right.
Do you know of, or is that an issue within the community, or is pansexual a more common thing when it comes to dating someone that identifies or is transgender because of the difference in sexual anatomy based on the sex that you identify as? Like, is pansexual a more common thing?
Yes. So pansexual is a lot more common than asexual, intersexual, things like that. Things that are not necessarily non-existent, but just that isn't common. So yeah, it's definitely gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual. Those are the four main, mainstream like sexuality identities.
What's the difference between pan and bi?
Well, so bisexual, you like two or more genders. Pansexual, you like all. So
there's just no identifying quality. It's just whoever you're attracted to.
So that's the difference. Bisexual, I like men or women or trans men.
Got it.
But that's it.
Gotcha.
Pansexual is, I don't care if you're,
whatever.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
One of the biggest steps as far as like your aspirations and your goals in life is to start a podcast of your own. Take us through that. What's that entail?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of starting my own podcast. It's called The Mysterious Minds of the Mentally Ill.
The Mysterious Minds of the Mentally Ill.
Yes,
I like that.
And it's going to be about serial killers, conspiracy theories, just all that
Sign
crazy
my wife
stuff.
Let me know when it's out.
A bunch of those too.
She's obsessed.
It's so it's kind of like Bailey Sarian's on YouTube. It's
my wife watches that every day.
I love her. But
yeah, she's great.
It's kind of just like, it's going to be the same thing, but I'm going to try to hit a lot of serial killers that aren't mainstream, people that aren't the Jeffrey Dahmers and Unabombers of the world. You know what I mean?
Is there anyone off the top of your head who you're dying to cover right off the bat?
Yeah. So my first episode, just a little sneak peek, is going to be about Chester Turner. So he was one of the most notorious serial killers in LA back in like the 80s, 90s, and he's super famous even to this day because he is one of the first known African-American serial killers, at least from, back then. Because if you look at a list of serial killers,
they're all white guys,
all white dudes,
all of them white guys. So it's, I just think his case is super interesting. So
we either brutally murder a bunch of people or we shoot them up. It's all fucking weird white dudes, man.
That's why everyone hates us.
They think it's the racism, but it's not. We just kill everybody.
We're just responsible for most of the deaths.
We're just crazy. That's all.
Yeah.
Goodness.
I recently attended a wedding with you. We had mutual friends and we had no idea even about that. Our friend Alicia, and to see Mason with Paige, his girlfriend, at the wedding. These two were born together. I'm very happy that you two have found each other, and very happy for you. They say all things in life happen for a reason.
Mhm.
And I believe that your struggles and the adversities that you faced and conquered and that you went through, even all those shallow people who, you know, didn't understand or articulate from your point of view,
Mhm.
I feel like you went through all that to get the great things that you have now. And,
Oh,
and I'm very
100%.
happy for you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then I grew up in a abusive household too, and so it was there's a lot more adversity than people realize, especially, people see me as trans or just see anyone as, something different, but they don't know like what's really going on behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
there was a lot more, adversity than I had expected, but I definitely don't take any of that, as hardship. I take it to things as things to learn from.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, a lot of people who are in bad situations now or, are going through something just always need to keep in mind that, it doesn't last forever. Things get better. And, there was a point in my time where, I didn't even want to be here anymore,
Yeah.
and just things get better. They get a lot better, and you work for things and you get things. And Paige is actually really inspirational to me, and we feed a lot off of each other because she grew up in a bad situation, and we have talked about this before where it's just you either take those things and use them to motivate yourself and get what you want and never have to put your kids or whatever through those situations, or you use it to to do things for as an excuse. And I just
And
think that
continue the cycle.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just think that anyone who's out there going through anything, whether it's transitioning, coming out, or, just in general having a bad home life, not having a lot of money, things do get better and it'll be okay. You know what I mean? So
Awesome message.
With the, I mean, kind of to that point of the emotional things and the distress and the stuff that you have to go through. Obviously, the outside world and the way that people look upon or accept is enough burden and hard in itself. But
yeah, of course.
going through the process or coming to understanding of who you were, I mean, the struggles with that in itself is obviously very hard. Was there certain things that were like, I know you felt or you knew who you were, but was there a point that you like that was like just the tipping point where you really knew that what it was? I mean, did you ever have that internal struggle with like you said, some people go through it and then realize it's not for them. Did you ever have that internal struggle where you're like, well, maybe this isn't right, or you were just like, I know this is who I am and this is what's right for me and what I've got to do?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I went through that. I think everyone does, where they just are fearful of the unknown. They're
Yeah.
fearful of what could come from that. So my personal struggle was, just telling myself over and over, I don't feel these things. I don't
Yeah.
believe these things. Why am I like this?
Yeah.
Almost blaming myself and, sort of having a victim mentality of myself. And
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people who are so closeted or who even are, backtracking in the transition, which I can't speak for everyone. Everyone's life is different, but
Yeah.
it just gets to a point where everyone meets this crossroad of, should I continue? Should I keep pushing?
Mhm.
Is this worth it? Is losing family worth it? Is losing friends worth it? And at the end of the day, you only have one life. You are only here one time. Whether you use that to be happy or use it
Yeah.
to please others is 100% you. But I came to this realization sort of mid my transition after I had already started testosterone,
Yeah.
was just that, why am I living my life to please other people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why would I stop being who I am and being happy within myself
Yeah.
to make people feel better? And I think that everyone, whether it's transitioning or even just about a major decision or whatever, goes through this point of like, well, what do my family think? What do my friends think?
Right.
And I think especially that happens a lot with people who, branch out and do podcasts or start YouTube channels or, move halfway across the country. Like, everybody has something to say. Everyone has an opinion. And it's just up to you as to whether you let those influence you in your life. So I think that in my transition, it was more of, I'm tired of hiding who I am just to make everyone else happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that to me is like, you bringing up the ones who don't fully follow through with it. That to me has to be the worst case scenario, because you're essentially living a lie your whole life. You're living as someone in your heart, someone you wake up every day and feel that you're not.
Yes.
Yep. And you can kind of address, I mean, that can tie to so many aspects of your life, you know. And I think that the whole don't not do it because you're going to upset other people or lose family. You know, you could not you directly, but just in general, like you could not truly live your life in not just happiness, but to the fullest, or to a understanding of what it's meant to be, if you know that you're doing something that it would just be like falsely following a belief that you don't believe in, you know. Like, this is
100%.
not who I am. I can't have fake alter ego and fake who you are when you know that's not truly who you're believing in. And it's sad that people don't understand, and you lose family and use friends because of that sort of thing, but those aren't your true family. You know, those aren't your true friends. And there's things that I do that I'm sure there's people I used to be friends with that aren't anymore because they don't believe in things I do, but I have to do what I know is what I believe is right, or what makes me happy, or what I believe in. And the people that you surround yourself with will accept you if they're the right people in your life. So,
and going back on this, it's like, you are supposed to accept others and love others and help yourself, or help them, with everything that you have. But also at the same time, there's a limit to that, and you can't you can't give everything you have and keep nothing, because then at that point, what are you? You know what I mean? And I think that there comes a point in time in everyone's life where you come to this crossroads of, should I keep giving, or do I take? Should I put me first and then others second? Or, do I just continue to live a life that isn't for me? And I think that it's difficult in a lot of people because they have this close bond with their family, or they're afraid of what their friends might think. And I've lost a lot of people, a lot of people. And even to this day, there are people that are in my life that I know don't accept me and don't want me to be the way that I am, but they're just here because they love me. And it hurts a lot. But also at the same time, it would hurt more to know every single day that I'm fake. And I'm not who I am. And I had made a status on Facebook yesterday, actually. Paige, when she posted my GoFundMe, I got a lot of backlash from that, especially from people who I went to high school with that are very close-minded, which, I shouldn't care about that anyway. But at some point, everyone's opinion has an effect on you. And I'm done belittling myself and making myself someone that pleases other people. I'm not here to live my life for, Chris or for Ryan or Jesse. I'm here to live my life for me. So, you know what I mean?
Take offense to that.
Good, because you'd be a Cowboys fan.
But it gets to a point where, it's just like, you have to serve yourself first. And, and even if that may sound selfish, it's the truth.
Yeah.
But it's not. The thing that I struggle with that, what you said is perfect, but the thing I struggle with is the people that turn their backs on you or shun you because of you coming to terms with who you really are. You're not harming anybody.
Right.
I can be your friend or love you or care about you as a family or a friend based on the decision you made, regardless if I agree with it or believe in it. You're not harming anyone. I'm not going to do that same thing with someone who's a racist piece of shit.
Exactly.
They're harming people. I am not going to see eye to them, no matter what. If I love them or they're my friends or family, that's not a boundary that you can find the gray area in, because of what that's a whole other level. Like what you're just living your life. You're just being who you are. It's what you're doing isn't going to harm or hurt anybody.
Right.
It's just the ignorance in people, and thankfully we've come such a long way, and it is becoming more accepting, and some doors are getting broken down within the government and allowing more accepting and, equal rights and things like that. I read something that said something about gay privilege or something, and it's not a privilege. It's an equality. Like you're not privileged by being gay. You're not getting any benefit by being gay. You're being treated like anybody else should be.
Right. And I think, not to cut you off, but I think a lot of people look at it as gay people want special treatment,
Yeah.
and that's not the case.
Equal
We just
treatment.
right, exactly.
just
We
want
just want
treatment.
equal
That's
treatment.
Treated like
Yeah.
a human being. That's
Mhm.
it.
And we're not asking, to kind of go back to the church aspect of it. Churches don't pay taxes. They take money every Sunday for things that they need, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but also
But
at the
that's a
same
privilege.
time, that's a privilege. And a lot of people that I've lost personally
Yep.
were within the church, and
Mhm.
homosexuality is a sin and things like that, and I understand that to a point, but I'm not out here asking for people to give me money, or give me a job because I'm gay, or be my
Yeah.
friend because I'm gay. I'm just asking you to be my friend because I'm a good person, or allow me to have a job because I worked hard for that. You know what I mean?
And my thing is to piggyback on what Ryan said. It's like they can just not comment that status, or they could just not support you in the first place. Like they don't have to give money. Nobody's putting a
Exactly.
gun to their head and saying, give them all your money and all that.
Mhm.
Like you said, to me, it's like the easier thing is to just ignore it and walk away. If you
Mhm.
don't support it, then walk away.
Yeah, of course.
Shut your mouth.
I just that belief within, and just the church as an example, since you brought that up, is I don't understand how that's affecting anyone.
Mhm.
Okay, so I would love for someone who is an extreme homophobe
Mhm.
to meet a gay person and not know they're gay, and see how they
Those are the best
interact with
videos.
them, and
There's
be their
actually-
friend, and then you come out and say, well, I like you just liked me a minute ago. Who cares who I like sexually? Or if we could somehow do that with someone who's of a different race or something. Look at the person for who they are.
Yeah.
I've never been able to understand, and I know some of it is taught, some of it's probably psychological.
Mhm.
I've never understood how you treat people differently because of their sex, or because of the color of their skin or something. I'll never get that. Or
Mhm.
because the Bible told me that I'm not supposed to support you because of your sexuality. Like, what
Right.
the fuck, man?
A lot of people use the excuse that it's being pushed, and
Mhm.
yeah, maybe it is to an
Yeah.
extent, but also at the same time, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a reason for everything. Gay Pride Month, especially, which is right now in June, it was created because gay people were getting killed
Yep.
just for being gay.
Yeah.
And there was a riot, there was a mob, it was being forced onto people, like, I'm gay and you're gonna fucking take it. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that there's a equal amount of hate in homosexual, like people who hate homosexuality, but also fear. And I
Mhm.
think that they don't want to take the time to understand it, because they think that, oh, well, you're gay, I don't want you coming on to me. But that's
Yeah.
not the case. Just because I'm
My kid's gonna see the trans character in Disney, and then they're gonna think that they can be
Exactly.
trans.
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
just like, just because, like, just for Chris, for example, just because Chris may be gay doesn't mean he's attracted to Jesse. You know what I mean? It's just like people.
I'm not attracted to
Likely
every
story. Come on now. If you're
Likely
gay,
story.
I mean, look at me.
Totally not my type.
I'm not attracted to every female I see just because I
Exactly.
like women. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you're going to be attracted to me just because you like men, or you
Right.
whatever.
Have you had any positive experiences in what Ryan was saying, where somebody didn't know that you were transitioning and then found out later and they were like, oh,
Oh yeah,
I would've-
especially now. My sister's boyfriend, actually, they had just started dating probably like a month or two ago, and he thought I was just a cis dude who
Yeah.
carried his weight in his chest, because a lot of cisgendered men have issues with that. And my sister didn't say anything to him about it, because
No.
that's the whole point, is
Right,
I'm
right.
supposed to pass,
Yeah.
and she had mentioned a story that I had an interaction with
You had an erection
with a guy a long time ago, like before I started transitioning, and it happened to be his cousin, and he was like, wait, so Matthias is gay? And
Yeah.
then my sister had to be like, no, like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, especially now, and I have people, I pass very easily, and I'm very thankful for that, because a lot of trans men don't, and it's very hard. And a lot of trans women, especially, if they don't start hormone blockers and
Yeah.
when they're 12, 11, before puberty, their voice is as deep as Ryan's.
Yeah.
And they have to go out and present as a woman with Ryan's voice, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's very hard. So
It seems I don't want to say more accepting, but it seems easier the portrayal is easier.
Yeah.
I accept it's easier for women that transition to men than the other way. I follow
Absolutely.
a lot of trans men on TikTok and stuff, and sometimes you would never know, you
Mhm.
know, and
I think that's toxic masculinity too.
Oh,
You know, it has a lot to
100%.
do with it.
yeah. So it's a very interesting the way that it all works and everything. And you brought up Pride Month, and that what's going to be one of my questions is the benefits that you find in it and the things that people can do to help with you know, the knowledge or education
Mhm.
behind it and stuff. People like to knock, you know, a Black History Month or a Pride Month. Why do they deserve a month? We don't have a White History Month or whatever, because we're not in a position
Every day
where
is white
we're
history.
yeah, exactly. We're not in a position where we're being held back or rights are being taken from us or anything. So it's to educate people and
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
bring it to the forefront so it is more accepted, and that
Mhm.
people that are scared of it or don't understand it
Mhm.
can it's not forcing it, but it's like, look, we need to be accepted, and whatever we need to do to make you realize that, we're gonna kind of put it in front of your
Yeah.
face so you can learn.
Mhm.
So are there things that that you've obviously I'm sure found beneficial from Pride Month, but things that you would like to see done more of, or things that people can in the community can help with to benefit the cause and things like that?
I think a lot of people's issues with Pride Month or with, you know, Black History Month or just any month that isn't white history,
Right.
they have an issue with the fact that they feel it's being forced onto them, that they have to learn about it, that if they don't accept it or don't believe in it, then they're going to be like persecuted in society and things
Yeah.
like that. And it's just, I just, my main thing and the big thing from Pride Month in general, or any month that is a celebratory thing, is these things happened. The history of that is why it's caused. And all we want is for you to understand and go on about your day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, this happened to me a lot earlier in my transition before I was passing, where, you know, I get stared at. I would get refused to be served by a certain person. I would get, you know, certain things that would happen that weren't exactly comfortable, you know, and it just gets to a point where all we want is to be treated equally, you know what I mean? And that's it. Especially, you know, Black history, you brought that
Yeah.
up. All Black people want is to be treated equal, and to be seen equally. And, you know, and it's the same for Pride. All we want is to be treated equally, to not be persecuted or screamed at in the middle of a street because we're gay, to not,
Right.
you know, be turned away because we're holding hands with our partner and living a happy life, you know what I mean? So
The saddest aspect to me, and my sister came out to my mom and I in 2013,
Mhm.
and the saddest aspect to me about everything is just that we as a society, we have created this perception now that, you know, that our loved ones can't come out to us.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's terrifying. I think that's just very sad too.
Yeah.
When my sister came out to my mom and I, she was scared because of what my father had kind of laid on her all her life,
Mhm.
myself too. But when she came out to us, you know, she was worried we were going to disown her, and you know, that it would be this long struggle and all that. She came out to us, and the next question was, so what are we getting on our pizza?
Right.
Yeah. And even with me, even knowing, you know, my mom, how accepting she is and everything,
Mhm.
I was still scared, you know. It's a
course.
scared thing because you might think someone's accepting, but you actually
Yeah.
do it, and you know, you never know. So
Yeah.
there's a story of this girl had come out to her gay parents, her gay dads, as a lesbian, and they were like, no, you're not. That's
You
not
gotta be
okay.
kidding me.
Yeah. And
Mm.
like things like that happen, and it's just like, you think, you know, expect the unexpected, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So and that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, my dad, him and I haven't really been close at all my whole life, but you know, coming out to him, he was like, you know, I love you, I don't support you, you know. So it was
Yeah.
just like,
Exact words. I love
yeah,
you. I don't support you.
I don't support what you're doing. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do, but I love you. That's, you know, that's what his words to me were. And my sister, you know, her words, well, that lived down with him, that were raised by him, her words were, you know, it's hard on us. And it's just
Thank you for
like,
considering me.
yeah, right.
Thanks.
And I think those types of reactions are what does terrify people, you know, whether their family's accepting or not of
course.
that, is, you know, what, you know, expect the unexpected. So
Yeah. with the way that your father responded, do you still have a relationship with him, or is it easier? I mean, at that point, when someone tells you that, do you still want to continue a relationship with them, or does that kind of feel like two-faced, I guess?
So
Not
obviously,
even him. You don't have to put Casey listens. You don't have to put him out specifically, but anybody, a friend or
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
says, I love you, but I don't support what you're doing.
Right.
What does that even?
So the initial reaction is, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
To anyone. But, over time you do, you loathe and you want those relationships with that person. A lot of times it's said like, oh, you only get one parent.
Yeah.
But, there comes a point where trying and trying and trying is just mentally hard for you,
Yep.
mentally abusive to yourself.
Yeah.
And, my dad, our relationship, we had not talked in a long time, but I reached out to him recently, and he wants to have a relationship, but he refuses to acknowledge that I'm transitioned. And it's getting to a point where mentally I have gotten to a point in my life where the only people that are still in it are the people who have accepted me.
Yep.
And you don't backtrack in life, and I'm not going to backtrack to accepting that for myself.
Tease him.
Exactly.
So here's what you do.
Yeah.
You go to Father Righteous and you tell him right now, you say, you take down a piece of paper and you write anything, how this affects you at all, anything that changes from, who I was before to who I am now. And if you come up with even one legitimate reason on there, we'll squash it and you can keep your rights.
Exactly. And I think, it does have an effect on your family. That is something you have to consider is, they're going to be a lot more worried for you. And, you have to take into account of their opinion because, they are your family. They do love you and care for you, but you can't take disrespect for yourself. And that's for anyone. If anyone came up to Jesse right now and said, you're a Christian, fuck you. You know what I mean? That's disrespect. And he's not going to take that. Just the same as me. You're trans. I don't accept you.
I don't support you. Yeah.
It's the same for me.
That's not concern. That's laying it down, saying disrespect.
Exactly.
You can be concerned, but you're also not going to ask permission.
Right.
Like, I mean, you're not going to come out to your family and say, hey, I identify as a male and I want to go through this. Are you okay with that? No, you're not. Okay, I'm going to continue to do this. Like, if it's the right thing for you, you're going to do it.
Exactly.
Have you had anybody, I think Jesse kind of asked, but not to this extent, but have you had anybody that was blatantly like, I don't support that, I don't agree with that, that's come around and realized and like educated themselves and has said, hey, you know what? I realized I was wrong. I apologize. Yeah. That's great.
Especially with my last relationship, their parents, they go by they, them.
Yeah.
Their parents were like, called me every name in the book and told me to get out. You know what I mean? When I transitioned. So they didn't want that around their family. They didn't want that, in their life. And, I didn't talk to them for probably 4 or 5 months. I refused to go over there because I just wasn't going to put myself in that situation.
Oh no.
And, the first time I went over there after that, they were calling me Mason. They had done their own research.
Yeah.
They, everyone's initial reaction is going to be resistance. And you have to realize, especially when you're transitioning, people need time.
Yeah.
So
that's a huge win though. I mean, for them to on their own have educated and realized that this was an important thing and to take that time to do it.
Oh, 100%.
I think if more people, because I truly believe that hate is something that's taught. It's learned through experience or upbringing, just like racism and things like that. You're not born racist. Children don't know what that means.
Exactly.
It is taught by, lack of education or just the way that your family grew up and they never were willing to open up about things like that. So for someone to willing to take that step, and that's where Pride Month and things like that are important because it makes it more forefront and you kind of have to like it. I've never felt affected by it. Like I've never been felt like, oh man, I'm dreading June because there's going to be all this shit going on. Like it doesn't change. If I want to be involved and I want to learn about it, it's there and it's available to me. But if I don't, it's not affecting my life any. So people that feel that way, I think for the most part, we'd all probably agree they're homophobe. Or if you're against Black History Month, it's because you're racist. Nobody is saying, oh man, I hate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Because it's not affecting anybody's rights or anything. It's not impeding on me. So I'm not going to turn it away. But when it comes to equality of another person's life, then all of a sudden it's a problem.
Mhm. And I think, especially in Pride Month, there's a lot of resistance. And there's something going around now that I saw that is like, this is my pride flag. And it was like the military, like the Army, the Navy, and then the cops, the firefighters, and it was like a flag. And there are people that repost that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes don't realize what that's for. And they don't realize that they're doing it out of hate and they're doing it out of spite. And you say things to them and they're like, oh, that wasn't my intention. And you're like, but that is, because that's what it's for. And then, they argue and there's resistance, and then, they form a certain opinion about you. But I think that's where people think like, oh, you're pushing it on me. But it's like, I'm not pushing it on you. I'm trying to educate you. You know what I mean?
Blue Lives Matter and stuff wasn't a thing until Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are a lot of closet racists or closet homophobes that they believe that, but they're not going to come out and blatantly say it because they know how it's going to affect their life and the backlash that they're going to receive. They could lose their job. They might lose scholarship or friends and family but deep down inside, they believe that. When you share something like that, I don't believe a lot of the ignorance of, well, I just support the cops, but I'm not racist. You're taking away from what those people are trying to present as something that's important to them and what that means. And there might be some people that are ignorant too. I'm not saying that it's 100% black and white, but a lot of the times that's just because that's what they believe in, and they're just gonna.
Well, that's like my stepdad. When I first started dating Paige, I don't want to say the Black Lives Matter movement was kind of winding down, but it just wasn't as prominent as it was last summer.
We talked about that too. Yeah.
And he was listening to Tom McDonald, and Tom McDonald's views are not very nice. And we were trying to, kind of inform him, like, hate to tell you this, bestie, but his views aren't very nice, and a lot of them revolve around, fuck, get the gay movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. It's all stupid. Everybody's stupid. You know what I mean?
Well, shock, he comes off as such a reasonable guy too.
Yeah. And, I'm not saying all of his views are like that, but just a majority of them. And my stepdad had tried to, kind of, he stated his opinion, and I wasn't putting him down for his opinion, but he was just saying that he supports the words, but not the movement. And I don't think he understood the impact of what he was saying. And I think it's because there are a lot of people who are like, yes, all lives do matter, but they don't understand that they're supporting people who are saying Black lives don't matter, all lives matter. You know what I mean? And I think that that's where a lot of people might come off as ignorant, but rather they're just uneducated. And I think that's where that comes from is, well, all lives do matter. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, but do you understand why they're saying that? And then they're like, well, I understand why they're saying it, but the words are true. And it's like, okay, but all lives don't matter until Black lives matter. You know what I mean? So it's
kind of defeats your slogan.
Exactly.
It's an argument that we will be blue in the face arguing forever, because those are people that just aren't willing to open up and want to accept or educate themselves on the purpose or reasoning behind it. You can twist anything to fit your motive, and there's things that are always going to come out against a community that might negatively impact them or might tarnish what their initial thing is going. But if you look at the ultimate reasoning behind things, you can understand it. And some people just won't ever be willing to do that.
Yeah.
And all you can continue to do, or we all have to continue to do, is to be supportive and educate and try and have the conversations with people, and not force anything on anybody, but say, this is why it's happening, and look into it for yourself. And social media and the media in general as a whole perpetuates a lot of that stuff, unfortunately. But
yeah, of course. And I think another thing is just that these movements that they're creating is just, like you said, out of pure hate. And I think that a lot of people who aren't doing it out of hate just don't understand that concept. And I think that's just where like the media in general makes a huge difference in people. And I think that's also another reason too, why like you had said earlier, you were hoping it changes itself over generations. And I truthfully don't know that that's possible, because I think there are people who break away from the system, but that doesn't necessarily mean the whole family does.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that no matter what, racism, homophobia, internalized homophobia, those things are going to be pushed onto people. And I think that it's, you have to inform them. You can't rely on generation. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess more so in the generational thing is people continue to be educated and understanding that it'll slowly start to fizzle out, because the people that refuse to accept and change, that generation is starting to die off. There are people that are never going to, but as we continue to have these types of conversations and more people are willing to open up about it, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. I doubt in our lifetime, but over time, I truly hope or believe that we get to a place where people are just accepting of people for being the people, and that's all that really matters. So
And I think exposure is like a huge part of that also, because if you're not exposed to it, like you talk about trans people and people automatically think like, oh, it's all drag queens and that's nightlife and, they're all provocative, whatever. But like, just a normal dude.
Right.
Like you come down, you're hanging out, we're having a good time. Like it goes back to my friend Sarah. Like I was very homophobic until I actually knew somebody part of that community and was like, oh, this is just another person, and it's, I think exposure, the education comes after exposure, because the first time you meet somebody and it's not what you expected and it's not this provocative, evil, whatever, like that is that first step where you go, well, what the hell?
Then you're more willing to want to learn about it and understand it.
You're at least going to have that conversation.
Imagine that, living with your eyes open.
Right. And that goes for race, that goes for, anything.
Oh,
but people are so inclined to keep within their general circles. Like that's why I want more LGBTQ in the church. I want more mixed races in the church and stuff, because I think that's a big problem. It's all old white people in the vast majority of the church. And it's the same way though. I think the exposure and that relationship really does build those bridges.
And I think Vice had actually done a video like a few years ago during Pride Month, where they exposed extremely homophobic people to gay people. And in the video, you can just see like these people, they don't want to hug you. They don't want to come near you. Like, don't come 6 feet within, like you're going to hell. I don't want anything to do with you. Like, and I think that it really exposed, that there are a lot of people out there who just don't understand and aren't willing to understand. And I think a lot of that, people are afraid of what they don't know. And I think, that it really shows when it comes to, oh, you're different. You weren't born a white male that's straight and has 4 children and their wife stays at home and cooks them food. You know what I mean? So
ignorancy from people who don't understand. That sounds like a presidency of the last house.
Oh my goodness. I've had a question that I've been holding on to that was like from way back, and I'm trying to find a way to like include it because it doesn't go with what we're talking about.
Oh, too bad. Okay.
I'm gonna miss it otherwise. So you talked earlier about how like you just didn't feel right like your entire life, and how like your mom would give you Barbies, you'd throw them under the thing, and people thought you were a tomboy and all that. And it seemed like very like it was just like the gender norms that didn't seem to fit you. When you knew I'm a man, is it just gender norms? Because like I have a student that was the first trans person I was ever exposed to personally. His name is Jake, transitioning to, well, no transition happened yet, but identifies as a man. But he's also very feminine. You would never know if he didn't tell you. If he didn't say, "Hey, I'm Jake," this is what you would never know. So what is it? Is it different for everybody, or is there something that like what is it that makes it so that you're not a tomboy or a masculine lesbian versus a man?
So I think that everyone's experience is different, but I think that society is so used to putting genders in a box that when you see someone, like Jesse, for example, if Jesse was, more feminine, I would assume, hey, he's gay. You know what I mean? I think it's the same way. You interpret someone's gender just by looking at them, first glance. And I think that that includes toxic masculinity, feminism, things like that, and I just think and at least in my experience, when I was like, I'm a man, I gender norms is something that like applies to it, at least for me. But also at the same time, there are things I do that are still feminine that, you can go to like, this is something I didn't mention earlier, for trans men and trans women, like there are classes where you learn how to speak societally like a man or a woman. You learn how to walk like a woman, talk like a man, vice versa. And it's just, if you're comfortable in yourself, then just be who you are. You know what I mean? There's not any certain, pink is not feminine. You know what I mean?
Right.
Blue is not masculine.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to, but based off of your point is, there was a moment in my head where I was like, okay, maybe I just am a tomboy, maybe that's just, what I am. But I came to a point where I was like, no, like that's not who I am.
There's more to
There's
it.
more. And you know what I mean? And I never knew what it was until I was exposed to Adam and learned about his transition and everything. And it's hard for people who aren't in the situation to understand. And it's hard to explain because it's almost like you don't think about, when you're straight and you're born a man, you don't think about, I like women and I was born with a penis and, I'm just a man. That's just what society's told me.
Yeah.
When you're born a man and you don't feel like a man, you're like, I'm kind of uncomfortable. Like you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. You know what I mean? And I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't like it. And then you get exposed, and you have that exposure to someone who is transitioning, or you've had it your whole life.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, wow. And then you start to kind of experiment. At least with me, I wore men's clothing. Was I comfortable going out in public, posing as a man and, being more masculine. And then I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like this. I feel more comfortable. People are staring at me, people are looking at me, but I'm happy, I'm comfortable.
Right.
And then I started going to therapy, and I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, I really feel like I'm a man. I feel like I should be a man. And she was like, okay. So I went to a doctor and I started hormone therapy. And there, I'm so much more comfortable in myself. I don't look in the mirror every day and go, who are you? Why do you look like that?
Right.
Why aren't I comfortable? You know what I mean? And that's what I did. And I think that's what a lot of trans people do. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with, oh, well, I talk this way and that's feminine.
Yeah.
So, maybe I am a female.
Yeah.
It's more or less like, I'm so uncomfortable in my own body. I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin, and I don't know why. And, why do I look in the mirror and like just hate myself? You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily an internal hate. It's like physical. Like you aren't presenting as who you are, because in my mind, I'm the same person I've always been. You know, it's the way I present myself to other
It's just
people
the
that's
appearance
different.
that's
Yeah.
changed.
And, it's not so much you don't come to this like great horizon of, wow, I'm trans. It's okay, well, there are ways of me to present the way I want to and be who I feel like I am. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's what a lot of people, don't understand when it comes to trans people is, kind of like Jesse's question of, well, you wouldn't know. And it's like, well, to him, that's who he's always been. He's still the same person. He's just presenting differently.
Right.
And there are a lot of trans people. I know a trans man that I follow on. I don't know him personally, but we follow each other on Twitter. He goes by he, they, because he's more comfortable as a man. He transitioned into a man. He's happy as a man, but he also doesn't like the gender norms of being a man. He doesn't. I don't want to dress in jeans and a t-shirt. I want to wear a skirt, and I'm comfortable in those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's just breaking out of a box of what society's trying to put you in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got 2 points to that. I'll save the second one for last, but I definitely believe it to be a feeling, something. What are you making fun of me for? Because I second
We
one.
said I'll save the second one for last. Well, yeah, because there's two of
I
them.
know, but I was thinking in
No
my head,
shit, Ryan.
I was
Thanks.
thinking in my head 2 questions, and I was going to ask the first one first, but then I was like, I want to make a point before.
Ask the
'cause
first one
maybe
first.
I'll
Go.
come off as less of an asshole when I ask the second one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to prime it now if I'm going to be an asshole in a second. But so I definitely believe it to be, and we talked about this kind of earlier, is it's not something you choose. I don't think anybody chooses to live that lifestyle. It's not easy. It's
Right.
chemical. And to that point is, I don't, like you said, you as a man, born as a man, I don't all of a sudden choose this is what I'm going to be. I don't look at any of you as men, and I'm not attracted to you that way. I can say a man is a good looking man and the physical being of who he is, but I don't have any you're a fine looking man, Jesse. I won't lie,
you.
but I'm not. I
See,
didn't
Chris?
know.
I like your beard a lot.
Thank you.
Sexual.
Would you say it's the best beard?
Oh my god, pube beard.
I'd bang Michael B. Jordan. I'm just saying.
I have no sexual attraction and I didn't choose that. I don't have any feeling within inside of me that says I am sexually attracted to another man. I want to be intimate with them. I want to have any sort of relationship. But to the question about gender norms and things, there's things that I do that a lot of people believe to be feminine. There was times growing up where people would say I was gay because I liked sewing.
Right.
I find myself to be metrosexual. I like to take care of myself. I like to be well groomed. I want to do things that a lot of people would put in a box of being a feminine quality. But I can do those things comfortably because I know who I am. And it doesn't mean that I am a woman or whatever. I know who I am, and that's who was born. So with the way that I think a lot of it is the fear of the unknown, and it's different and things like that, because, okay, you were born a woman based on science or whatever, with the anatomy that you were born with, but you identify as another way. So like, I've always wondered, is it just something in our a DNA makeup or something, because you were born this way and we've said, well, that makes you a female and this is what you're supposed to do, but you don't feel that way inside. So it's like coming to an understanding of what that means. Like, we've set these 2 boundaries based on, okay, you either have a penis or you have a vagina. And so that's the only 2 things that you can be.
Right.
We haven't explored what other things are. There's so much that makes up our DNA and our chemical stuff. So people have said, or I've heard in conversation, it's like a chemical imbalance or something like that. But that's not like, I think that's because we don't understand it. It doesn't make it a negative thing. Have you had that conversation where people told you that, you're born a woman, you're a woman, so if you don't feel that way, there's something wrong with you, like you're...
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
'Cause it's easier to say a person's crazy or something.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
I've had people tell me, you were born a girl, you're a girl. I don't care what you say. Get over it. You know what I mean? And there's like you said, there's just a misunderstanding of what that means. And technically, so the technical diagnosis is gender dysphoria, and that is caused by a chemical imbalance that you're born with. You can't help it.
Yeah.
It's not a disease. It's not,
Yeah.
a disorder. It's just, how they classify it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And
it's just like if someone, it's just like when we have fears of someone who might have like Down syndrome because they look different. So we're afraid of that because it's different. It's the same thing. We're all made up of a whole bunch of bullshit, and so I don't know. But
do we know what is the chemical imbalance? Like, do you have more testosterone that you were born with, and that's like the explanation, or do we not know?
So basically, from my understanding, I guess like the easiest way to put it would be it's more of a hormone imbalance. So yeah, technically it's not 100% for certain. At least I don't 100% fully understand the diagnosis, but from what I can interpret is that I was born with just a hormone imbalance, and I feel that I'm more masculine than what I should have been born as. So yeah, I guess it would be considered, more testosterone. But there are, women who are born with testosterone who don't want to transition. So it's definitely something within the brain that it's a cognitive function that, you don't have, or that Chris doesn't have, or Jesse doesn't have. So it's just, it's the same, as you said, like Down syndrome, autism. not necessarily on that spectrum,
Right.
but it's the same concept. You know,
Yeah.
they can't help it. That's just who they are.
Right.
And I think a lot of people view it and even view being gay as a choice, and it's 100% not. You know, there's nothing. I'm sure there are people out there who are like, okay, you know, maybe I'll experiment, but
Mhm.
you know, 9 times out of 10, they marry a man or marry a woman and they go on with their life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like, people who actively live as a transgender or someone who's part of the LGBTQ, they cannot help it. It's
Yeah.
they are born that way, and that's just how it is. And there's nothing they can do. I mean, they can be straight. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Make the society interpret them as
Right.
straight, but that
You could
doesn't
live your
mean-
life as a woman, but that's not who you are.
exactly.
It's just
And-
what you want. It's like, you know, I woke up and, you know, I think women are beautiful. I think they're the most beautiful creatures alive. And it's like, that's my mind telling me that.
Mhm.
It's not what society is telling me to want. It's that I see them and I'm like, that's the voice from within. It's like, man, I got to get with that or whatever in layman's terms. You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
yeah.
I gotta get
with
me
that.
some of that.
Right. But
give me
but
a slice of that.
That's the best way I can convey it. Yeah.
But it's just
Good
yeah.
Lord.
I don't wake up and be like, yeah, I want to be a woman today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's or I don't want to be anything today. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There are people, like that who and that they can't help it either. That's they're they don't identify as a man or a woman. They
Yeah.
go by they them. And they wake up and they're like, oh, I feel more feminine today, or I feel more masculine today. But for transgender people, that's not the case.
Yeah.
They wake up every day and they're like, oh, I feel like a man, you know what I
Right.
mean? And that's it, point blank,
Yeah.
period. So
With the I didn't get to ask this earlier, but with like the surgery type stuff, is that just so you can align the physical appearance with how you feel? Like, because
yes.
you could still
Mhm.
dress like a man and do the things that you enjoy as a man, regardless of that. But
Mhm.
it's so that way when you see yourself, you're like, well, I am a man.
Yes.
That's the main purpose. There's no other reasoning behind it other than you just want to, so that when people see you, they know I'm Mason.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the purpose. Yeah.
So basically the surgery is more of, it's not necessarily a need, but it is
Yeah.
because, it's not a medical need by
Right.
any means, but I would feel so much more comfortable within myself not having,
Of course.
a chest, or not
Yeah.
having, a bottom half that represents what
Right.
a female.
It
you know
would
what I
be
mean?
like as if a man, because there are men that can be born with breasts due to
Mhm.
whatever tissue and stuff.
Mhm.
As a man, I would probably want to have that removed to feel
Exactly.
comfortable with who I am.
Mhm.
So you just want to be able to reflect physically who you feel internally so that it all aligns.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And with my GoFundMe, that was a lot backlash that I've been getting. It's only been up a couple days, but even still, that's
Yeah.
all it takes. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for the backlash that I got was, people make GoFundMes for everything.
Yeah.
It's just a one. It's not a need, and whatever. But what they
But
don't
why
realize
is my want affecting you?
exactly.
You don't have to donate to it.
Mhm.
Right.
Go play in trap.
Right.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is like, that is a need for me.
Yeah.
It might not be a need for you. It might not be
Yeah.
a need medically, but for me, that is a need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't want to walk around, underneath my clothes feeling like a woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
That makes sense.
appearing like a woman, because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And so maybe not physically or medically it's a need, but for me it is. And by no means am I begging anyone to donate, or requiring donate now or I'm never talking to you again. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
But it's just
It's an acceptance thing. It's just
Exactly.
like the Pride Month or Black History Month. If it was a female who had a GoFundMe for breast implants,
Mhm.
guys would be like, yeah, sure, I'll donate. Let me see them afterwards. Like people will be all
Exactly.
over it. No one's going to be hating on it. But
Mhm.
because it's something different or against their beliefs, they're going
Yep.
to, you're going to find that negativity
100%,
regardless.
yeah.
So cool. God, that's a lot of stuff. Other questions? Anything else that you guys have? I mean, other than the obvious, I mean, thank you so much for coming on. I really respect you coming on and talking openly. I think it's very beneficial, just to the education purpose and people understanding. And so I really do appreciate you telling your story and being open with us and taking some of our naive questions. And it is educational experience. This is my
Yeah.
first knowingly experience with
Mhm.
someone direct that's transgender. So it is it was very nice to be able to interact and discuss. So
Yeah.
Same for me. I know like one other trans person, but I can't exactly ask her as a student all of these questions. So,
Yeah.
or him, still get mixed up,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that happens a lot too. Is the pronouns are the hardest part for a
Yeah.
lot of people. Is when you know someone as a she, and
Yeah.
then they tell you one day, "Hey, I'm a he."
Yeah.
There are some slip ups, and that's something that's hard for trans people too. But they
Right.
also have to understand within themselves, like that person is a human. They're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's the hardest thing about him being a student also is like
yeah,
his mom is totally against it.
Mm.
Born Jessica,
yeah,
she
right.
calls him Jessica and he goes by Jake. And so like legally we're like, there's no rule for this. Like, we don't know what to
Mhm.
do. So like
Yeah.
anytime she's not around, we're just like, all right, Jake, we're good to go. But then
Right.
like whenever she shows up, we're like, so Jessica's doing good in class. And we're just like,
Yeah, that's the hardest part too, is parents who don't accept it, because especially for young kids, they don't have the means of, okay, well, my mom doesn't accept it, so I can't get anything medically. I'm not old enough. I
Yeah.
can't get my name changed. I can't get things like that because I'm 12. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like,
Jesse actually brings up a really good point. I was trying to end it because I know we've been going forever. I'm sorry it's late. No, but the gender identifier part actually raised a good question, and I'd like your opinion on just doing the right thing and approaching people. Is it okay to ask someone? So like,
oh,
if someone
100%.
physical appearance doesn't
Mhm.
align with like maybe a name or something, is it okay for me to say, would you prefer ma'am or sir? Because like in my previous job, like it was very direct with
Mhm.
people, and it was a professional. So I would address everyone by a Mr. So-and-so or a Miss or a sir, and I ran into situations where I would say the wrong thing, but I didn't know if I was allowed to ask, or if that's rude. Like, how do you approach that?
So I would much rather be asked than to be mispronounced.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's how a lot of people view it.
Yeah.
If you don't know, just go by they or
Okay.
them. That's completely proper, you know,
Yeah.
and it's always better to ask than to assume.
Yeah.
So
have you to get like new IDs and stuff like that, have you done that? Do you have Mason as an ID?
so I don't.
Okay.
That's a good question.
It's $300 to have your name changed. You have to go to court. You have to have
Okay.
a court date. It's a lot. You have to file paperwork way before even you get your court date. The court has to approve it.
Yeah.
So that's a process I'm in the process of. But
Do you run into issues like with that when you
yes.
give an ID and they're like, well, is this really you? Or yeah.
Luckily IDs have pictures, so
Okay.
it's easy for people to match.
Yeah.
But yes, then the name doesn't match the face.
Yeah.
what was your name that you were born with? Did you choose something close, or did you just say like, no, this is my new name?
Yes. So I did choose something close. We call those dead names. We don't exactly
Dead names.
Yeah. So we don't
Not your government.
Right. Well, government name, but
Yeah.
and they're called dead names. So my name was Melina. A lot of trans people though don't like to announce that, and they will take offense if you ask them. So,
Okay.
Jesse,
my bad.
No, it's okay. But I'm glad that I could tell you that, because
it's educational.
It's it's not something that
It's not who you are.
Right.
You don't need to identify it because it's not the person that you
exactly.
are.
And there is, I'm very, very open with my transition. A lot of people aren't. So, it's good that people who are open about it, like I am, can educate people who don't know, you know what I mean? So
That's
I have
ultimate.
another dead name question that might be offensive, but I don't mean to be.
that's okay.
So why Mason? Is it just like, is that another thing where you're just like, that just feels right? Or did you like dabble with male names, or like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, it did feel right to me. That's why I chose it. But, a lot of people will pick different names before they finally settle, you know what I mean? So, a lot of times you go back and forth with it in your own head of how would how will I feel if someone's calling me this every day, or if I'm presenting as this every day? Like there's a trans guy that my sister used to be friends with that just recently started transitioning, and I'm sure they're never going to listen to this, but their name was Skylar, and that's very gender neutral.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to keep it, and they chose something completely, like I think they go by Jackson now. It's completely different. But everybody
Probably feels better to distance yourself as much as possible from that.
Everybody feels differently. So for me, it wasn't so much getting away from the name rather than what just felt good.
Right.
You know?
Like if you had the opportunity to change your name, would you, if you had to pick your name, would you pick Jesse?
I'd just say Jesse probably.
Like if you were born without a name and you had to say, what's my name going to be? You would have just said,
My
Jesse.
name's Dope. I'm Jesse.
Jesus, get out of here.
Well, and Jesse's
Certainly wouldn't be Ryan.
Jesse's very gender neutral too. But you know, for like Chris or Ryan, it would be different, you know, like if you transition to a woman, you wouldn't want to stay Chris, you know, or I mean,
Chris is
my girlfriend that I mentioned earlier, who I dated that is now dates women. Her name was Ryan.
Oh, really?
And it was so weird because when we first started dating, she never told me that her first name was Ryan, but her middle name was Paige, and that's what she goes by. And it wasn't until we were dating for a while that she told me that, because she just felt weird that we had the same name and she didn't go by that or whatever. But I don't know what I would pick. It's just like when you're thinking of your kid's name, how many times did you try and figure out what were you going to name your kid?
I just let the stuff choose.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but I think you just figure whatever feels right. Or like, man, I would love to be called this because it's a cool name.
Yeah, like I mean, if I mean, like if you know, it's kind of the same. Like if you're naming your kid, like you know, you go back and forth with names. Like, oh, I don't really like this one. Oh, I really like that. You know, it's the same for me. You know, I kind of went through a process where I was like, oh, I like that, or no, that's kind of stupid, or you know what I mean. So
for sure, very cool. That's all I got.
That's all
I mean,
got.
I'm sure I could talk for a lot more, but I think things will come up. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks again for coming on. Anything else, Chris?
I just want to say thank you because I feel like these talks are important, not just in this room, but I feel like globally.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We will. I want to get your GoFundMe link. It's probably a bunch of random stuff to say online, but if you get it to me, we'll make sure we put it in our show information and everything like that. So when we share the page, it is on there. And then for anybody that's listening to this or watches this, please share. These types of stories are really important. And you can help, you know, to make the difference and educate people and stuff. So that's all. If you've made it this long, appreciate you all, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. That is Made to Motivate podcast. Make sure you tune into the show every week. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube so you know when the new videos launch. And check out our pages individually if you can. We appreciate the support. At Jesse Unk SI on Twitter. Chris, the Film Freak Kessinger. Check out the Film Freak Review page on Facebook. And I am Ryan Weiss. You can check out rockeverywhereinc.etsy.com to follow my art and apparel page. We appreciate the support. And of course, at Made to Motivate podcast on all social media sites. Thanks again, and we'll check you next week.